Hey guys, RanterInShades, your exercise my first Remember Rights vlog style. And welcome to my fourth Q&A, my first Q&A of 2014, and couldn't have asked for a better time to be filming this as class was canceled today because of this big blizzard and it's cold as hell outside, so don't really know what to do with myself, so let's film our Q&A. Got a lot of questions, so let's get started. Jesus Sucks Dick 5 asks, what do you think of Chronic Future? The only song I really know of theirs is Time and Time Again, and I think that song kicks ass. It's a really great song, and I'd highly recommend it for anybody out there who's a fan of rap rock or even alternative metal. I think that song fits in pretty well with that genre, so yeah, like that song a lot. 2. What do you think of Us Bronies? I really don't have any profound opinions on bronies. I mean, I don't think they're strange or anything like that. I mean, sure, the show isn't exactly targeted to grown adult men, but all I really see is just people that enjoy a cartoon. What is wrong with that? I mean, I'm not gonna come on here and say that it's wrong for an adult to enjoy cartoons, because that would make me so hypocritical. I love looking back on shit that I grew up with. So if you like the My Little Pony show, that's good for you. It's not exactly for me, but if you like it, good for you. 3. What do you think of Joey Jordison leaving Slipknot, and what do you think he will do next? He has that Scar the Martyr project right now that I think he's going to be focusing more on. I believe that's what he's going to be doing. If not, he also has the Murder Dolls. He could play guitar with them again. But about him leaving Slipknot, I don't think it's as much of a tragedy as the fans are making it out to be. I mean, Joey is going to be doing just fine for himself. He's made a lot of money with Slipknot, and I know right away he's going to be doing just fine for himself. Number 4. What would your reaction be if they made a RanterInShades porn parody? I would laugh, although it would kind of depend on who they would be pairing me with. Like, I would object if they were to make a porn video of me starring me and who's somebody I really don't like. The Archfiend, for just an example. If they made a porn video of me and the Archfiend, I would be like, no, I don't think I can accept this. But other than that, I would laugh. Mark Berman asks, what are some of your favorite albums of 2013? Maybe top 5 or 10? I listed some albums I enjoyed in my Best Songs of 2013 video. The new Stryper album, the new Black Sabbath, the new Avenged Sevenfold, the new Alter Bridge, and the new Satriani. So, that's a few that I enjoy. Other albums that came out this year that I really liked would include Dream Theater's new album. I liked that. The Winery Dogs released, I'm not sure if anybody knows who they are. They're a band that features Richie Kotzen, who's played with Poison and Mr. Big, Billy Sheehan, who's my favorite bassist, who's played with Mr. Big, David Lee Roth, Steve Vai, and just so much else, and Mike Portnoy of Dream Theater on drums. I like what they came out with. I also really liked the Marshall Mathers LP 2 from Eminem. There were some songs that I didn't really care for as much, but overall I thought it was a really good album, especially for Eminem. It's a really good direction for him to go in. Warlord27753 asks, do or did you have other ambitions beside music? When I was younger, like around elementary school, the end of elementary school, to like the first half of middle school, I really enjoyed drawing and making comics. Like, hold on. I spent a lot of my time doodling around and making some panels for this little stickered out piece of work called, I think it's too bright to see it, but it says Animal Town Comics. I wrote a lot of shit in here. I stopped around 8th grade when I had just run out of ideas, but this really was a big reflection of my sense of humor at the time. But yeah, I really enjoyed drawing, and I think for a while I wanted to, be a cartoonist, but I kind of just gave up on that. 2. Are you a fan of math? Math was always one of my weaker subjects. so I really can't say I'm a fan. My first semester last year, I barely passed the math course that I was taking, so yeah, not a fan. 3. What are your thoughts on the Resident Evil games, particularly Resident Evil 4? I am not a gamer, so I've never played the Resident Evil games. I think the Resident Evil movies are okay, but never played the games before. 4. Should violence ever be used to achieve a goal? I do not think so, and if you need proof of that, look at Gandhi. Gandhi used nonviolent protesting to achieve what he set out to achieve, so that's enough proof to show that you don't need violence to achieve a goal. And 5, what is supply and demand? Not gonna let you go without at least one economics question. Oh, you. But I did touch a little on supply and demand in my concert brattiness video. Basically what it basically is what it sounds like. The audience demands something, and the marketer or promoter or whoever supplies. So like an example of that would be the 90s Are All That block on Nickelodeon. There was enough of a demand for reruns of those old shows, so Nickelodeon supplied. So that's a good bit of how supply and demand works. And another thing, there needs to be a certain level of demand in order for it to be supplied. So there you go, sir. Vanilla Hodge asks, how long have you been playing guitar? I've been playing since 2006, so it'll be about 8 years this year. 2. What are your all-time favorite movies? Wedding Crashers would be my all-time favorite. Other movies I really like would include Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Forrest Gump, Shawshank Redemption, what else? Scarface, Goodfellas, Pulp Fiction, Dumb and Dumber, just way too much else. I mean, I have a whole movie collection sitting up on my shelf up there, and I could make a whole video going over that, but that would be kind of boring. So, there's a lot more movies that I really like, but those are the few that come to my mind that I really enjoy. 3. Ever been to Destin? I have no idea what that is. 4. How did you discover YouTube? I believe it was in 2007 when a friend of mine showed me the Muffins video by Liam Kyle Sullivan, and I thought that was the most hilarious thing ever. 5. Are there any EDM artists that you like? I guess Daft Punk if anything, but other than that, really can't say I'm that big on it. 6. When did you realize that music was something you wanted to study in college, and what are your goals in terms of what you plan on using your degree for? Well, I'm a music tech major here, so what I plan on doing when I get out of college is finding work in production. I'd like to be a producer, because it seems like the most plausible job in the music industry that I'd be able to get. I realized that I wanted to study music or do something for music when I got to high school and realized that it was pretty much all I gave a shit about. So, yeah. 7. Is it true that you stole a ladder? You mean that ladder? It was here when I got here. 8. Could you twerk for us? No. Porygon Fanatics asks, what do you think of Brett Keane having become religious again? I really don't care about Brett Keane all that much. He's never been a major focus of mine. I mean, I think he's an asshole, but the drama with him is about a couple weeks old, so it would take a while to refresh my mind on what exactly I really don't like about him. But really, I don't care what religion or non-religion he is. It doesn't make him any more or less of an asshole. 2. Do you think my channel name is too Pokemon-like to become successful as a non-Pokemon ranter? I think your channel name's actually alright. I mean, Porygon, pretty underrated Pokemon in my opinion. And, I don't think you need to have a channel like mine, I guess. You don't need to have a channel like that in order to make rant videos. I've seen people that have pretty normal channel names upload rant videos. So you can do whatever you want with your channel, really. If you want to upload rant videos, go ahead and make some rants. 3. How bad is vegan food? I guess it does have its health benefits, but I just find it disgusting. Blaze the Movie Fan asks, what are some of your favorite movies? Okay, let's think of some more movies that I like. Okay, Anchorman. What else? Superbad, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, Star Wars, I do like the Star Wars movies, 21 Jump Street, and again, like I said, way too much else. 2. What do you think of Pokemon? I'm not as into Pokemon as I know you are, but Pokemon is something that I hold more for nostalgia compared to others, because there are other people that are very religious with Pokemon, but it's never been something I've been really big on. I'm kind of out of touch with Pokemon. I watched the show a little bit back in 2000, and I collected a lot of those plastic figurines. And the first Pokemon movie was actually the first movie that I saw in a theater. So that is how into Pokemon I am. 3. What's your opinion on Superman? I like the first 2 Superman movies, but other than that, not really much else. Luision Pinch Mopens asks, do you like Teen Titans 2003 series? I watched the show a little back when I was younger, but other than that, I wasn't really into the show. I remember thinking Beast Boy was hilarious, but other than that, not much. Daunt Sear asks, what's your favorite drink? Mountain Dew. What's your favorite ice cream? Sherbet. Do you watch TV, and if so, what's your favorite show? My favorite thing to watch on TV is South Park. Really, when it comes to the TV shows I watch, it's really only sitcoms that I'm watching. I mean, other than South Park, I really like The Office, Big Bang Theory, The Simpsons, Seinfeld, How I Met Your Mother, early Family Guy, 2.5 Men, the Charlie Sheen years. I stopped after he left. Futurama, Modern Family, Parks and Rec when I'm in the mood, and other than that, I don't really watch too much TV aside from that, or if I'm just looking back on something from my childhood, or watching a DVD of one of those shows, or if I have any of the episodes on my hard drive, that's usually what I'll be watching. 4. If you could get paid $1 million, but it requires you to eat 50 cans of vegan food, would you do it? Nah, there's more important things than money. Moo Me Papa 1111 asks, you said you didn't like black metal that much. Is there some black metal bands you do like? Not really. I really don't. It's not really my thing. If anything, though, probably a few thrash metal bands that have some black metal influence, like Skeleton Witch, Abzu, and Destroyer 666. But other than that, no. Not a black metal fan. Zombie Dozer 101 asks, what kind of guitar do you use? I've shown my guitars in a few of my older videos. Allow me to get them all out for you. This is my primary guitar, which is a Laguna. Looks kind of like an Ibanez. I'm not really sure what model it is. It really doesn't have one. But this is the main guitar I use, the one that I play the most often. This is my secondary guitar, which I don't play as often, but I only play it when I want to play in a tuning other than E-flat, because that's what my other guitar is tuned to. This is what I use when I want to play in like a drop tuning, for example. This is a BC Rich Warlock Bronze Series, and pretty insane looking. And finally, this is my Ibanez acoustic. Alec Lee asks, if you can do anything in the world, what would you do? The same thing I do every night. Try to take over the world. Zigbar2 asks, what are other styles of music do you enjoy listening to? Okay, that was a poorly constructed sentence. But I mentioned other types of music that I enjoy listening to in some of my videos. Aside from metal and hard rock, I like a lot of hip-hop, some alternative rock, punk, a good bit of pop, mainly from before 2005. What else? Some jazz and blues, new wave, and that's about it. 2. What's your take on industrial bands like Fear Factory, Stabbing Westward, and Gravity Kills? Well, Fear Factory would definitely be my favorite of the industrial metal genre. I think Fear Factory are incredible, and I think that the song Archetype, that has my favorite drum beat of all time. Gravity Kills, I also like. Stabbing Westward, I don't think I've heard of. Other industrial metal bands that I like would include Marilyn Manson, Static X, Ministry, Spineshank, Rammstein, KMFDM, Killing Joke, and that's all that's coming to mind right now. 3. Do you like any styles of electronic music? If so, then what styles do you like? I'm not really that big on electronic music, mainly the house and trance music. I'm not really that big on those. But if a band or artist uses an electronic instrument in their music, you know, it's cool. They can pull it off. Chino Marley 16 asks, these are my top 10 favorite bands. Can you give me a simple yes or no if you like these bands? Just want to hear your opinion. Green Day, yes. U2, overrated, but sure. Weezer, yes. Red Hot Chili Peppers, fuck yes. Radiohead, overrated, but yes. The Cure, yes. Jimmy Eat World, a little bit, yes. Nine Inch Nails, a little bit, yes. Smashing Pumpkins, yes. Bloodhound Gang, yes. Rubai is Danami asks, what are your thoughts of 2013? Example, society, music, news, etc. 2013 was an okay year. Had its ups, had its downs. Music was pretty okay, actually. Not really too much shit. Some things in society I think were better off not happening. Like, for example, we could have stopped talking about the Miley Cyrus thing after a couple days, and there were some unfortunate deaths like Jeff Hanneman and Roger Ebert. But overall, 2013, pretty good year. 2. How many pairs of shades do you own? Just these ones and the RanterInShades shades. That's all. 3. Best part of 2013. It can be anything. Well, certainly creating this channel and building it to the point that it's at. This was certainly a great thing. Alex Schmidt asks, what is your opinion on the band Green Day? I briefly mentioned them earlier. Let's go into more depth about it. Green Day were a band that I pretty much grew up with. I really enjoyed listening to back when I was younger, and I still enjoy them to this day. Really, I only listened to the first couple albums, particularly Dookie, which I think is one of the best punk albums of all time. They, as a band, I think they're good musicians. Billy Joe Armstrong, he's not a shredder, but he's a good guitarist. Mike Dirnt, I think he's a great bassist, and Trey Cool, a great drummer. So, yes, Green Day. Like him. Official TNF Rants asks, what are your thoughts on Cult of Clusterfuck, Jesus Christ, Thrash Metal Guru, Waymu, and Blackguard? Cult of Clusterfuck is a pretty good friend of mine. We talk a good bit on Facebook and Skype. He's really smart for his age. His videos are pretty good. You should definitely check him out, those of you who haven't heard of him, if you like very well thought out and insightful of rants. He's a pretty cool guy. Jesus Christ, on the other hand, I think he's horrible. I think he's probably the worst ranter that YouTube has ever seen. He stumbles over his words a lot. His delivery was very forced. He repeats himself a lot. And this was something that Nate Talks to You actually pointed out on one of his side channels, but he contradicts himself a lot. So yeah, he's horrible. Good riddance to him. Thrash Metal Guru, aka Jastin, he's another very good friend of mine. One of my very first YouTube friends. He's a really nice guy. One of the nicest guys that I've met through my little endeavors here. I can talk to him about lots of different stuff, so yes. And content-wise, he's pretty good. He makes some pretty good points, so yeah, he's a good guy. Waymu, he has a few good videos, but other than that, I really don't care much for his content. And I personally find him to be really arrogant and condescending, but that's just him, I guess. Blackguard, I don't know who that is. I remember hearing about him from Nick Malazzo, which kind of makes me feel inclined to think he's a douchebag, but I don't know. Blackleg Sanji asks, what is your opinion on this whole Repzion stuff, him condoning suicide and all that jazz? I've been kind of trying to avoid talking about this, but since you asked, I'll try to explain where I've been coming from in the most concise way that I can. So, while I do think that that Daniel has been handling this whole thing pretty badly, and while he does need to own up to his mistakes and his flaws, the fact of the matter is, I still enjoy his content, and he's still one of my favorite YouTubers. It doesn't mean that he's impervious to criticism and that he doesn't have his flaws. He does have his flaws, and I take it upon myself as a subscriber of his to acknowledge those and point them out if I feel I need to. But I understand everybody's not very pleased with him, and that's fine. But really what it all comes down to is that I still do enjoy his videos. But yeah, he does need to own up to his mistakes, and he has been handling this pretty poorly. I do recommend that you check out Take Shot Action's video on the whole situation, considering how he and I pretty much have almost the same opinions on the whole thing, and he's been really supportive of, what I've been feeling throughout the whole thing, just like I have with him. And if you're watching this Take Shot, I do thank you for being a good friend throughout that whole period, because I know you and me were both having our anxiety attacks. But yeah, as far as the suicide stuff, while I do think that he needs to rethink and reevaluate what exactly he believes there, the fact of the matter is that it didn't really anger me. Suicide isn't really something that I've ever had to deal with. I've never been suicidal, and nobody I know in my personal life has been suicidal. So I feel very ignorant towards the subject of suicide because I've never really had to deal with it. And because I've never really had to deal with it, I wasn't exactly really angry about the things that Daniel was saying about suicide. So that's where I've been coming from there, and I hope you guys understand, and I hope I'm making sense, because if I'm not making sense, please tell me. So, sorry that wasn't as concise, but let's move on to your other questions. What is a movie that you'll enjoy no matter how many times you see it? Any of the movies that I already talked about. Particularly Wedding Crashers. In a battle between Infidel Amsterdam and the entire ranting community, who do you think would win? Infidel Amsterdam is forced to fight every ranter for 5 minutes. Can he survive the onslaught? He probably could. Have you seen him? He's huge. And he's Dutch. He's probably a much better fighter than any of us scrawny Americans. 4. Are you not entertained? Yes, I was very entertained. Been talking for a while, I need to drink. EWQ123 Iffy asks, what do you think of my username? I don't really know what it means. Also, what are your thoughts on old punk rock bands such as The Exploited and the Sex Pistols? I think punk was at its best in the 80s and the first part of the 90s. My favorite genres of punk would be 80s hardcore and 90s pop punk from like the first half of the 90s. When there were bands like Green Day, The Offspring, NoFX if you consider them pop punk, and a few others from around that time period. And a few of my favorite 80s punk bands would include the Dead Kennedys, Exploited, Minor Threat, Reagan Youth, Black Flag, Bad Religion, who else? TSOL, the Ramones, even though I'm really more into their 70s stuff, but they're also a punk band that I really like. Sex Pistols, I think they're kind of overrated, but still not bad. Mr. Cameron 9000 asks, how long do you think you will be making videos for? As long as it takes before I run out of ideas, or I lose my motivation, or if too much stuff in my personal life gets in the way of things, because that is inevitable. It is going to happen. Hopefully it won't be for too long. It happens to the best of us. Like, I'm sure even PewDiePie one day is gonna run out of ideas or lose his motivation and stop making videos. It's gonna happen. But it's probably not gonna happen for a while, and I don't want to look that far ahead. Nakoma Show asks, what are your thoughts on Weezer? They're one of my favorite 90s alternative acts. I almost said alternative metal, but no. My favorite song of Weezer's is The Greatest Man That Ever Lived off of the Red album. It's a really epic song with a lot of parts to it. It's very complex, and also it references the "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple" Shaker hymn, which is awesome. So That makes a song really good in my book. 2. Besides Biggie Smalls, what are some rap artists you like? Oh, you remember the Biggie poster that I used to have in my old room that unfortunately ripped, so I don't have it right now. But I've spoken about other rappers that I like in a lot of my videos. They would include KRS-One, Eric B. and Rakim, NWA, Wu-Tang, Ice-T, early Snoop Dogg, early Eminem, Tech Nine, and a lot of others. 3. Do you own any vinyls, and what is your opinion of music on vinyls versus MP3? I do not own any vinyls because I do not own a record player, and I personally think it would be kind of pointless to collect vinyl if I didn't have anything to play it on. And as far as vinyls versus MP3, I haven't really listened to any vinyl, so I really can't make a judgment of which is better quality-wise. 4. What made the red man red? The sun, I guess. The Real Jimmy Casual asks, have you ever thought of doing any reviews? I have thought of doing reviews. It has crossed my mind, and I have been curious about it, but there are 2 things that have been holding me back. One is, what would I be reviewing? Would it be newer stuff? Would it be older stuff? Stuff like that. And the other thing that's been kind of holding me back is, what kind of approach would I be taking? You know, there are 2 ways I think I could be going about it. I could either be doing a track-by-track analysis, like what Muse Productions does, or I could be talking about from a bigger picture perspective, like what Cover Killer Nation does in his reviews, and also kind of like what The Needle Drop does, which is a channel that I actually just recently became a fan of. So, I have thought of doing some reviews, but I don't really know how I'd be going about it. Child of Bodom 1314 asks, what do you think of Children of Bodom? They are my favorite death metal band, and one of the few death metal bands I actually listen to. 2. Who's your favorite comic book superhero? I really don't read a lot of comics, but if I had to say anything, it would probably be Spider-Man. 3. PlayStation or Xbox? Probably PlayStation, since I've had more experience with it. Xbox has always been more of my brother's thing. Henrizzle ma mizzle extra salts on my frizzle asks, opinions on System of a Down? I like them, especially because they're one of the more experimental bands of their genre, and Serj Tankian is a brilliant frontman. 2. Any musical guilty pleasures? I'm planning on making a top 10 video about that, but an example of a guilty pleasure of mine would be a few Limp Bizkit songs. I don't think Limp Bizkit are great, but they do have a few decent songs. 3. What are your thoughts on hardcore punk bands like Sick of It All, Agnostic Front, Hatebreed, etc.? And on the same token, what do you think of the band Converge, since they fuse hardcore with metal and punk in a lot of their songs? I do like Converge. And the other bands you mentioned, I like all of them as well. Sick of It All, I really like a lot. Agnostic Front, they're pretty good. Hatebreed, I don't listen to too much, but they're good. 4. Do you like any indie music? Not that much, really, aside from a few songs on my playlist. I can't really think of too much. 5. What are some of your most favorite movies of 2013? That would include Wolf of Wall Street, Great Gatsby, The World's End, This Is the End, The Way Way Back, which I thought was brilliant, Don John, Now You See Me, and Anchorman 2. Those are the movies that I really enjoyed that I saw this year, so there you go. Ace Lucario asks, what books do you like to read? Really not that many, aside from some comics. 2. 10 years from now, what would you like to do? Well, like I said earlier, I'd like to do something in production. I'd like to be a producer. If nothing really works out with my band, I'd like to do that. 3. What is your wish for a better society? Well, for one, I'd like for the education system to be more real-life oriented and less geared towards higher test scores. Cooper Sly King asks, opinion on Screamo bands. There are a few bands that I see get labeled as Screamo that I do like. I don't hate them, but the only thing is the label Screamo. I think it's a bit too derogatory of a term for me to label bands as such. That's really my only issue there. Eminem Skittle Skittle asks, If you could make an all-star band consisting of 2 guitarists, 1 bassist, 1 drummer, and 1 lead vocalist from bands that were formed from 1969 to 2010, who would be in it? Vocalist is not limited to vocals, exclude yourself. This'll be easy. Joe Satriani and Steve Vai on guitar, mentor and protege. Billy Sheehan on bass, Mike Portnoy on drums, and on vocals, Sebastian Bach of Skid Row. Stocky Owl 150 asks, how old were you when you got into music? Well, I've been listening to music since I was about 5 years old, when my mom would always play the Beatles' One album, which is a partial greatest hits album of theirs. And the reason I say partial is because there's just so much missing from that album. So I've been listening to music for a long time. I didn't really start exploring music until I was about 12. 2. What are your thoughts on Justin Bieber retiring? I think it's all a publicity stunt, and he'll probably be back with something. 3. Who do you think is worst, Onision or MrRepzion? Well, I already explained my feelings about MrRepzion earlier in this video, but even if I really disliked him, I would still say Onision, because at least Repzion hasn't gone to ridiculous lengths to marry a girl half his age, or made fun of cutters, or made 9/11 jokes, or justified a lot of ridiculous things he said by saying it's comedy. At least he hasn't done that. I think Onision has done a lot more fucked up shit than Repzion ever has. Danny the Metalhead asks, fuck one, kill one, marry one. Happy Cabby, the Amazing Atheist, Razareth. I would probably have to kill Razareth, considering he's younger than me, and it would be kind of bad if I fucked or married him. I would marry the Amazing Atheist, because he sounds like he'd be the easiest to live with. So that would mean I would fuck Happy Cabby. Even though I'm kind of creeped out by his sideburns, I would just bite the bullet there. Railgun7041 asks, your thoughts on the current state of rap music? I do think it has potential to improve with the success that Macklemore had. I do think that hip-hop has potential to improve. 2. Your thoughts on the following bands such as Mudvayne, Periphery, and Stone Sour. I like all 3 of those. Mudvayne is one of my favorites in alternative metal. Periphery is one of my favorite bands that are labeled as gent. And Stone Sour, I like them. They're not exactly a favorite of mine, but I do like them. 3. What do you think of Eminem apologizing to his mother, even if you don't care about his new stuff? Well, like I said earlier, I thought the Marshall Mathers LP 2 was a very good release from him. And when he apologized to his mother, I do think that it was a really big thing for him to do, a very growing experience for him. It was really big of him to do that, because it's never good to hold grudges. 4. Which musician do you like as a musician but loathe as a person? Jeff Tate would be a good example of that. I think he's a good singer, but lately he's just taken the Queensrÿche name and just wiped his ass with it. Coming out with that really subpar Jeff Tate's Queensrÿche album, I think it was really douchey of him. Axl Rose, Paul Stanley, and Gene Simmons would also be examples of people that I like as musicians, but I think they're kind of douchebags in real life. Fierce Deity asks, have you ever listened to Scar Symmetry or Dark Tranquillity? I think Scar Symmetry is great. Dark Tranquillity, don't really listen to as much, but they're good. 2. Like any symphonic metal bands? Yes, I do. Such bands as Nightwish, Rhapsody of Fire, After Forever, Epica, Pythia, and not too much else is coming to mind, but definitely those bands. If I had $1 million, can I buy your shades? You can get these exact shades at your basic store. I mean, it's not like these are one-of-a-kind prime time or whatever. And finally, Dashy the Turtle Lopez asks, if you had the chance to learn how to play an instrument or another instrument, what would it be? Well, I already play drums, guitar, and bass, so I guess the next step would be keyboard, considering how I suck at piano, and I guess it would be the next step there. 2. What's your favorite animal? Dogs. I love dogs. Especially my dog. 3. Will you be my friend? I'm not really sure that's a great way to go about friendship. You don't just walk up to somebody and ask to be their friend. Basically, you need to engage them in a good conversation and start hanging out with them more after that until eventually, voila, you're friends and whatnot. Doesn't really happen very quickly with me anyway. So thank you to everybody who asked questions here, and thank you to everybody who's been supporting my channel. Jesus Christ, I've been talking for like 45 minutes. There was a subscriber of mine who inboxed me with a bunch of questions, which I will carry over into another video. So I will see you then. Thank you for watching this. Take care and have a nice day. I'm Shades, and I'll see you next time.